My husband drained everything and walked out. Our daughter looked up from breakfast and said, "Don't worry, I already took care of something." She was rinsing her cereal bowl when she said it. That's the detail I can't let go of. Not the words themselves, though those stopped my heart, but the image of my 12-year-old daughter standing at the sink in her school uniform, calmly rinsing out the last of her Cheerios, setting the bowl in the drying rack with the same quiet precision she did everything, and then turning to me with those dark, still eyes and saying it like she was commenting on the weather. "Mom, don't worry. I already handled something." I almost laughed. I was 20 minutes out of the worst discovery of my life. Hands still cold, brain still buffering, the bank's confirmation still ringing in my ears, and my child was telling me not to worry because she had handled something. She was 12. She had a backpack covered in astronomy stickers and a retainer she left on her nightstand every morning and a playlist called Focus Mode she listened to while doing homework. She had handled something. I didn't laugh. Instead, I stood very still in our kitchen in Columbus, Ohio, on a Tuesday morning in March, and I watched my daughter pick up her backpack, loop both straps over her shoulders with that unhurried, methodical way she had, and walk out the front door to catch the bus. Like the floor hadn't just caved in beneath both of us. Like she already knew exactly where solid ground was. It took me 3 more days to understand what she'd meant. By then, it was already too late for Mark. I need to tell you who we were before I tell you what happened, because none of this makes sense without the 14 years that came before that Tuesday morning. And because I spent a long time after everything fell apart wondering if I'd missed something, some signal, some crack in the foundation. And the honest answer is that I had. I just didn't have the vocabulary for it at the time. Mark Calloway and I met at a mutual friend's wedding in 2009. He was 31, I was 28, and he had that particular quality some men have of seeming completely at ease with himself. Not arrogant, just settled. Comfortable in his own skin in a way that felt, to me at 28, like the most attractive thing a person could be. I was a middle school English teacher then. He was in commercial real estate, mid-level, nothing spectacular, but steady. We dated for 2 years, got married, bought a small house in a good school district, had Emma. Life narrowed, the way it does with a child. My salary covered the household basics and Emma's daycare, while Mark's commission income went towards savings and the mortgage. It was a reasonable arrangement, a normal one. I taught 7th grade English 5 days a week and came home to a child who was, from the very beginning, quietly extraordinary. Emma had been reading since she was 3, not sounding out words, reading. Full sentences, comprehension, the works. By 6, she had moved through the school library's chapter book section, and her teacher had to start requesting things from the public library. By 8, she was writing code in Scratch, then Python, watching YouTube tutorials at night, and asking me questions I couldn't answer. By 10, she had built her own website, a book review blog, meticulously organized, with a rating system she'd designed herself. I was proud of her in the way that sometimes tips over into something more complicated. Something like awe. Something like the faint, persistent awareness that you are raising a person who is operating on a frequency you can only partially hear. Mark was proud of her too. Or he performed pride well enough that I couldn't tell the difference. I told myself there was no difference. The first sign was so quiet I didn't register it as a sign. About 8 months before he left, Mark started working late. Not dramatically. Not every night. Not in a way that triggered alarm. But the average hour he got home shifted from 6:30 to 8, 8:30, sometimes 9. I told myself the real estate market had picked up. Columbus was booming. Of course he was busier. 6 months before he left, he started being careful with his phone. Not paranoid careful, not movie-cheating husband careful, but a new habit of flipping it face down when he set it on the counter, angling it away slightly when he typed. I noticed it the way you notice a piece of furniture has been moved, a faint wrongness in a familiar arrangement. And then I told myself I was projecting. 4 months before he left, the joint savings account dropped by $6,000 in a single month. Mark said the HVAC estimate had come in and he'd put a deposit down. I didn't remember discussing an HVAC issue. He seemed slightly annoyed that I was asking, which made me feel slightly ashamed of asking, which is its own particular mechanism of control that I can see very clearly now, and couldn't see at all then. I told myself we were fine. The night he left, I was at book club. Karen Peterson hosts it at her house on the 3rd Thursday of every month. Always a bottle of something read, always more conversation than book discussion, always home by 10. It is one of the most normal things about my life. I was sitting on Karen's couch at 8:15, laughing about something I can't even remember now, while across town my husband of 12 years was moving through our house with deliberate, practiced purpose. I got home at 9:50. The light was on in Emma's room. Mark's side of the closet looked, I checked the next morning, exactly the same. He'd taken one bag. Enough for now. Everything else was collateral, I think. Details he'd deal with later, once we were all far enough behind him. I fell asleep not knowing anything had changed. Emma knew. She had watched him pack from the hallway, and she hadn't said a word. I found that out much later. I think about it often. Tuesday morning. Mark's half of the bed. Empty, but made, the way he always made it. Hospital corners and everything. I registered it as him having left early. I got up, got dressed, made Emma's breakfast, sat across from her at the table in the ordinary way. That's when he walked past with his bag. He didn't say goodbye to me. He looked at Emma and said, "Daddy's gotta go handle some things, Bug." He called her Bug. Had called her that since she was a baby. Emma looked at him with those dark, even eyes and said, "Okay." That was all. Just, okay. After the door closed, I told Emma what I told myself. Dad's going on a work trip. She looked at me for a moment. Then she looked back at her her cereal. She knew I was lying. I knew she knew. We both sat with that quietly, over Cheerios. 20 minutes after he left, I was at my laptop. Checking account, $240. Savings account, $0. Emma's college fund, 12 years, every birthday check from her grandparents. Every year I'd chosen to cut the vacation budget and put the difference away, $0. The transfers had happened over 3 days. While I was at school teaching 7th graders about the outsiders. While I was at book club laughing about nothing. 3 days of quiet, methodical movement, account to account, and then out. Somewhere I couldn't follow. I called the bank at 8:47 a.m. A representative named Terrence walked me through it with the particular gentleness of someone delivering news they deliver often. Every transfer was legal. His name was on everything. There was nothing they could do. I sat in the kitchen chair for a long time after I hung up. My hands were in my lap. I couldn't feel them. That's when Emma rinsed her bowl, dried it, put it away, turned to me with those quiet eyes and said, "Mom, don't worry. I already handled something. I didn't know what to do with that." I spent the rest of that day doing the functional things. Calling our family attorney, Linda Cho, leaving a message that I needed to speak with her urgently. Calling my sister in Cleveland who said, "Oh my God," 7 times and offered to drive up. Crying in the shower for approximately 11 minutes and then stopping because it felt indulgent when there were real problems to solve. Linda Cho called me back at 4:30. Linda had been practicing family law in Columbus for 22 years. She was thorough, slightly curt, and completely without false comfort, which is exactly what I needed. I walked her through the transfers. She was quiet for a moment. The accounts were joint, all of them, including Emma's college account. It was technically in both our names. Did he leave the state? I don't know where he went. Another pause. "Sarah, I want you to freeze your credit immediately, tonight, all 3 bureaus. And check if there are any recent hard inquiries on your credit report that you didn't authorize." Why? Because someone who empties accounts and leaves quietly isn't usually done. They're just getting started. I froze my credit that night. All 3 bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, one after another, sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop while Emma did homework in her room, or what I thought was homework. 3 days after he left, I went to put clean laundry on Emma's desk. I saw the paper, a printed email thread, 3 pages, single-spaced, Mark's name at the top of the thread, and a name I didn't recognize, Rebecca Howell. I read it standing up, laundry basket against my hip, and the cold moved through me slowly, the way cold does when it's really bad. Hotel reservations, meeting times, the particular shorthand of 2 people who had been communicating for a long time and had dropped any pretense of covering their tracks in private channels. And a line, about 2/3 down the first page, that made me set the laundry basket on the floor and sit on Emma's bed. "Handling Sarah when the time comes. Don't worry about it. The loan goes through Friday and will be set before she figures out anything is wrong. The loan." I read it again. "The loan goes through Friday." Emma. She appeared in the doorway. School had been out for an hour. She was holding her empty dinner plate, completely composed, like she'd been waiting. "How did you get these?" She came in and sat beside me on the bed. "Dad's not great with passwords," she said. "He uses the same one for everything." Emma, 2012, my birth year. A pause. "I've known it for 2 years. I looked at my 12-year-old daughter. How long have you known about this?" "About Rebecca?" 6 weeks. She said it the way you'd say since April. I saw a text on his phone in February when he left it on the counter. I didn't say anything because I wanted to understand what was actually happening first. 6 weeks. She had known for 6 weeks while I made his coffee and asked about his day and had absolutely no idea our marriage had become a crime scene. "Emma, what did you do with what you found?" She reached under her mattress and pulled out a spiral notebook. Purple cover, her name on the front in neat block letters. She set it on the bed between us and opened it. Pages of handwritten notes. Dates, times, account numbers I'd never seen. Screenshots printed on the family printer. A timeline, color-coded in 3 different pens. "He didn't just take our money," she said. She opened her laptop, turned the screen toward me. Loan documents. My name on the application. Emma's name. Emma's social security number. My 12-year-old daughter's social security number. On a mortgage application for a property in Sarasota, Florida. $200,000 in debt in our names for a house being purchased by my husband and a woman named Rebecca Howell. The room tilted. "He was going to disappear," Emma said. "Not with drama, just as fact. He and Rebecca were going to move to Florida, leave us with the debt. By the time anyone sorted out the fraud, they'd be established somewhere else under different financial structures." I couldn't speak. "Emma," my voice came out wrong. "What did you do?" She turned the laptop to face herself, opened a folder on the desktop. The folder was labeled Countermeasures. Inside that folder, organized with the same meticulous precision Emma applied to everything, was the following. Fraud reports filed with all 3 credit bureaus, flagging the unauthorized use of her social security number. Filed the same night I thought she was doing homework, 3 days before I froze my own credit. Formal identity theft report submitted through the FTC's identitytheft.gov portal, with documentation attached. A detailed complaint filed with the Ohio Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, with the loan documents attached as exhibits. And something else. A separate folder labeled Rebecca. Inside, documentation of Rebecca Howell's employment at a financial advisory firm called Meridian Wealth Management in Columbus. Client account irregularities spanning 26 months. 11 elderly clients whose accounts showed unexplained withdrawals totaling, across all accounts, approximately $340,000. Screenshots, transaction records, a 3-page summary summary document written in Emma's precise, unadorned prose. "Where did you get this?" I whispered. "Meridian's client portal has a vulnerability in its session authentication," Emma said, like that was a normal sentence. "If you know what you're looking for, you can access statement histories without credentials. I found the irregularities in about 4 hours." She had been 12 years old, alone in her room at 10 o'clock at night, methodically dismantling the woman who was helping destroy our family. "Emma?" I didn't know what I was asking. "She was stealing retirement savings from old people," Emma said. No emotion, just fact. She deserved it. Rebecca Howell had been suspended from Meridian Wealth Management 2 days earlier, pending an internal investigation. The tip that triggered the investigation had come from an anonymous source. I did not sleep that night. I lay in the bed that still smelled faintly of my husband and stared at the ceiling and tried to hold in my mind simultaneously the fraud, the loan, the missing money, my daughter sitting alone in her room for 6 weeks with all of it, color-coding her notes in 3 pens. She had watched me not know, and she had been working. I met with Linda Cho in person on Thursday morning. I brought Emma's folder, the printed emails, the loan documents, the notebook. Linda's paralegal, a meticulous woman named Gail, who had spent 15 years in financial litigation before moving to family law, spent 20 minutes going through everything in silence while Linda and I talked. When Gail looked up, she said one word: identity theft. She set down the loan documents. "This is federal." Linda was already reaching for her phone. "I'm calling Jim Pierce." James Pierce was a white-collar crime attorney with 27 years in practice, 9 of them as an assistant United States attorney before going private. He was not inexpensive. Linda told me that directly, and I told her I didn't care. Jim Pierce came in that afternoon and sat across from me in Linda's conference room and went through everything with the focused, unhurried attention of someone who has seen a great deal and is not easily surprised. He looked up from the loan documents once. "Your daughter found this?" "Yes." "How old is she?" 12. He looked at me for a moment. Then he went back to the documents. "Using a minor's social security number on a fraudulent loan application is a federal offense," he said. "Identity theft under 18 U.S.C. Paragraph 1028, combined with the fraudulent financial transfers and the misrepresentation on the mortgage application." He paused. "This is not a civil matter, Mrs. Calloway. This is criminal." He was already working on it before I left Linda's office. He had a contact at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, Special Agent Dana Forsyth, 13 years in white-collar financial crime, whom he had worked with on 3 previous cases. He told me to go home and act normal. I drove home and sat in the car in the driveway for a while. Then I went inside and made dinner and helped Emma with her Spanish homework and didn't say a single thing about any of it. The crisis peaked on a Friday. Jim Pierce called at 7:42 in the morning. "The loan closes today," he said. "If it goes through, the mortgage records in Florida become substantially more complicated to unwind. We need the Florida AG's office to flag the application before close of business." "Can they do that?" "They're working on it." "But Sarah," a pause. "There's something else." The FBI's preliminary review of the financial transfers had uncovered something we hadn't found in Emma's research. Mark had opened 2 additional accounts we didn't know about, in my name, using documents he'd apparently accessed through our shared filing system. One had a balance of 0. The other had been used as a vehicle for moving money in a pattern that, according to Agent Forsyth, resembled structuring. Structuring, the practice of breaking up financial transactions to avoid federal reporting thresholds, a federal crime. My name was on the account. My name was on all of it. I sat at my kitchen table and felt the particular physical sensation of a situation becoming larger than you can hold. Chest tight, hands numb, the mind skipping between things it can't process fast enough. "Jim," my voice was steady, surprising myself. "What do I need to do right now?" "Nothing. That's the answer. You do nothing and let us work. The structuring was done without your knowledge or authorization, and we can demonstrate that through transaction timing and IP address records. But you cannot contact Mark. You cannot contact Rebecca. You let this proceed." I had 48 hours, more or less, before the Florida mortgage either closed or was flagged. I told Jim I understood. I hung up. Emma came into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, opened her laptop. "You okay?" she asked, without looking up. "I'm okay." She looked up then, with those dark eyes that missed nothing. "It's almost over," she said. I didn't ask her how she knew. The call came on a Tuesday, exactly 1 week after he'd walked out. 2:15 p.m. I was sitting in my classroom after school, grading papers, when my phone lit up on the desk. "Mark." I let it ring twice. Then I answered. His voice was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. The settled, at ease quality I had loved for 14 years was completely gone. What was left was something frantic and stripped and small. "Sarah, something's happening. My accounts are frozen. Rebecca lost her job. There's someone with serious technical capability targeting us, and I don't know who." Emma walked into my classroom at that moment. I hadn't told her I was still at school. She'd figured it out on her own and come to find me. She set her backpack on a desk, pulled out her laptop, opened it, and looked at me. I put the call on speaker. "Someone just accessed my email, Sarah. I can see it opening in real time. Someone is in my system right now, and I need you to..." Emma held out her hand. I gave her the phone. "Hi, Dad." Silence. Total silence. The particular quality of a person trying to recalibrate faster than they can. "Emma," his voice cracked. "Sweetheart, listen to me. Something terrible is happening. Someone is doing things, making us look like criminals, making it look like..." "You used my social security number," Emma said, "to take out a $200,000 loan." Her voice did not shake like once. More silence. Then, Emma, I need you to understand. Things got very complicated. Your mother and I, the FBI has the loan documents, Emma said. Agent Forsyth has everything. The transfers, the accounts you opened in Mom's name, the structuring pattern. She paused. The Florida mortgage didn't close. They flagged it this morning. A sound on the other end of the line. Something between a breath and something worse. Emma, his voice was almost unrecognizable. I'm begging you. I have nothing left. I'm living out of my car. Whatever you've done, please, I'm asking you. Please just, you taught me something, Emma said. You taught me that the people who are supposed to protect you sometimes don't. Silence. So you have to protect yourself. She hung up, set my phone on the desk, closed her laptop, picked up her backpack, looked at me. I have homework, she said, and she walked out of my classroom, while somewhere in a parking lot in Florida, her father sat with a phone in his hand, understanding for the first time that his 12-year-old daughter had been 3 steps ahead of him for 6 weeks. The consequences came the way consequences do when evidence is clean and documentation is thorough. Mark was charged federally with identity theft. 2 counts, 1 for the loan in my name and 1 for Emma's social security number, plus wire fraud related to the structuring accounts. His attorney negotiated for 8 months before a plea agreement was reached, 32 months in federal prison, restitution of all transferred funds plus interest, and a permanent prohibition on holding joint financial accounts. The Florida mortgage was voided. The property never transferred. Rebecca Howell's internal investigation at Meridian Wealth Management expanded into a full regulatory inquiry once the Ohio Attorney General's office got involved. The $340,000 in client account irregularities Emma had documented led to formal charges, 11 counts of financial elder abuse, a civil suit from 3 of the affected clients' families, and the permanent revocation of her Series 65 license. She and Mark were never reunited. He was in federal custody before the Meridian investigation concluded. She had her own attorneys to manage. Linda Cho filed my divorce petition the same week as the criminal charges, and a family court judge granted emergency relief restoring my access to the marital assets, what was left of them, and awarding me full physical custody of Emma pending the final hearing. The college fund was recovered in full through the restitution order, plus interest. Emma accepted this information with the same calm she'd brought to everything else. Good, she said. That was all. Just good. I want to tell you that I handled all of this with grace and strategic precision. I want to give you the version where I was the protagonist the whole time, where my stillness and my planning were the force that brought everything to light. But that wouldn't be honest. The truth is that I was blindsided. I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted, or I trusted him past the point where the evidence stopped supporting it. And by the time I understood what was happening, my 12-year-old had already been working the problem for 6 weeks. Emma was the strategist. Emma was the one who watched without showing her hand. Emma was the one who, at 12 years old, understood intuitively that confrontation would only give her father time to cover tracks he hadn't finished covering. She waited. She documented. She protected us the only way she knew how, methodically, precisely, without a single wasted move. I have spent a lot of time since then thinking about what I want to say to her about that, how to honor what she did without letting her carry it as a weight, how to tell her that protecting your family is not the same thing as being responsible for your family, that she was never supposed to be the one holding the line. We are in therapy now, both of us. Emma with a child psychologist named Dr. Renata Flores, who works specifically with children who have experienced family trauma and who told me in our first parent meeting that Emma was one of the most self-possessed young people she had encountered in 18 years of practice. Said it with the particular expression of someone who means it as a compliment and a caution simultaneously. Emma goes to her sessions, does the work, comes home and does her homework and feeds our new cat, a gray tabby she named Algorithm because of course she did, and watches documentaries about space at 11 o'clock at night. She is 12. She is fine. She is not entirely fine. We are working on it, both of us. 9 months later, Emma made honor roll. Her Python project, a tool that flags irregular patterns in nonprofit financial reporting, which she built and submitted to a statewide student technology competition, won first place in the category for grades 6 through 8. The judges' comments said it demonstrated an unusual sophistication in both technical execution and ethical application. She stood at the podium in the Columbus Convention Center in a blue dress she'd picked out herself, collected her award, and said into the microphone with characteristic Emma brevity, "I built this because I think people in vulnerable situations deserve protection from financial predators. Thank you." The room applauded. I was in the 3rd row, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking the entire time. Not from fear, for once, but from something I don't have a clean word for. She came back to her seat and sat down beside me. "You okay?" I asked her. Her words, my voice. She looked at me with those dark, still eyes. "Yeah," she said. "I'm good." She picked up her program and started reading the names of the other award winners with genuine interest. And I sat beside my daughter in the 3rd row and thought about a Tuesday morning in March and a bowl of Cheerios and a 12-year-old who had already decided, weeks before I even knew there was a decision to make, that we were going to be okay. She was right.